What's up, TikTok? How are y'all? I have a few minutes and I wanted to sit down and talk to everybody um, just about decolonization, family, some suggestion. Like I like to say, my Ruca wisdom. How's everybody doing? Hi, everybody. My name is Citlalli. I am the person behind this page, Mexican Excellence. And I'm also on YouTube. I've been on YouTube since 2008. Can you believe that? So I'm on YouTube, on Instagram, and I'm a historian, poet, activist. I try to create content that educates, that uplifts, that empowers, that helps decolonize my community. And the research that I do, it comes from the perspective of where I come from, right, which is a detribalized Mexicana. And some of the research that, whatever I share online, it's research that has really transformed me and impacted my life. And I want to share it with y'all because maybe it can help you, right? It can help you on your journey. And I'm really excited to see so many people starting to challenge, and question Latinidad and question mestizaje, question all these ideas that we're traditionally bombarded with since forever, and really taking a step back and being like, whoa, like, am I really fucking Latina? Am I really a mestiza? Like, who created these concepts? What did they mean? Why were they used in the very beginning? Like, what's the benefit? Who's benefiting from these terms? So, am I the only one hearing the voice echo? Is there an echo? Let me know, yo. Let me know. Hopefully not. Yes, let me know if you can hear me okay. I didn't do nothing different with my phone. Let me know. No echo. Okay, awesome. I'm not sure what's happening. The indigenous, and I can't see the rest of the name. Thank you for joining me. I have a few minutes and I wanted to share just a couple of things that have been, there's a double echo, but I don't know if it's my phone. Like I can hear you, but, oh, yes, restart. I'll be here for a few more minutes. Yes. So welcome everybody. Welcome. I wanted to talk about, and this is a Ruca wisdom session, okay? I've been asked by a couple of people, like, how do we deal with family as we're decolonizing? How do we deal with parenthood, with motherhood as we're decolonizing, right? And let me share just a few tips and suggestions. I've been on this journey for going into 26 years. This 2022 will be 26 years that I've been on this journey of investigating, researching, deconstructing identity, and finding my way home to my ancestors, right? And again, the particular perspective I speak from is that of a detribalized Mexicana, right? Detribalized because I am the fourth generation that's been disconnected from the Nahuatl speaking community of Jalisco, Juchitlan. I'm not sure what variant of Nahuatl we spoke, but that's what I know, right? And mind you, when I started my journey in the late 90s, like DNA testing, archives, digital archives, that shit was like unheard of. Like back in the day, I don't think we ever fucking imagined that one day that shit would be possible. So, mind you, when I started this journey, I had already accepted and made peace with that part, right? That part that I probably would never be able to find specific tribe, my specific nation or language, right? So that's what it was back in the 90s. But now we have digitized archives. We have digitized records where you can find, right, your ancestors' records, marriage certificates, death certificates, immigration reports. Amazing, right? And as a historian, I'm all in it. Like, I'm like, what? It was so powerful to me when I came across my great great grandparents' marriage license. And mind you, the licenses in Mexico in the late 1800s were not like today, right? Back in Mexico, the way that they recorded marriages was through written out, right? Cursive. So they would say, hoy, el 17 de julio de 1903 or whatever, se unen las dos jóvenes, blah, blah, blah. They talk about what rancho they're from, what pueblo they're from, what labor they did, what families they come from, who are the witnesses there. So it's like a paragraph, right? So when you look at the records, it's like a paragraph and the writing's fucking crazy. Like you really have to like pay attention, but it's there, right? So when I read that, I was like, what? And I just came across that like a year ago, about a year and a half ago. And I shared it with my family. I was like, check this out. Like, encontré el registro de matrimonio de mis tatarabuelos. And my family was like, what the heck? Like, anyway, it was just beautiful to see that. Handwritten documents are hard to read. Yes, absolutely. So the handwritten documents, because there's no typewriter at that moment or not accessible to the recorder's office. But yes. So anyway, so that's been amazing, right? So what I wanted to talk about is how to just give you some suggestions and tips on how to deal with family. It's hard because when I started my journey, I was 15 years old, right? And I was like really like emotional about it because I was like, I just found this information out. Like how, like we went through a genocide. We're not taught this history. We're not Hispanic or Latino. Like, what the fuck? Like, when I learned that in the 9th grade, I was in the second semester of 9th grade. Shout out to Huntington Park High School in California. What's up? Los Angeles. What's up? And I remember just like, what the fuck? Like, I couldn't believe it. Right? I couldn't believe it. I was like, what the fuck? Like, there's no fucking way. So obviously I was like really critical about that shit. Cause I mean, you're not even like critical about a lot of shit, right? So when I fucking learned that, I was like, no fucking way. Like, I need to learn this shit for myself. Like, there's no fucking way. There was a club in my high school called the Chicano Mexicano Mexica Empowerment Committee. And they had, I was in a punk rock back in the day. And I was performing a song at San Matthias Church because they lent us the church. I don't know what the fuck. Anyway, so we had a punk show underneath the San Matthias Church. And so I'm fucking jamming, to my fucking punk rock song. I was a lead singer. And the lyrics said, Mexicanos, chinos, japoneses, somos iguales, aunque seamos ilegales, wooty woo, right? So anyway, they came up to me, these young guys, and they're like, hey, your song was pretty dope, but we're not illegal. Like, this is our land. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, I was like, what? Like, and they gave me a flyer, and I got the flyer, And so that's what started my journey, right? So I'm 15, and I was just finished performing a punk song that I wrote about we're all the same, even though we're illegal, we're all the same. And then bam, it's like, we're not illegal. This is our land. We're not Hispanic. We're not Latino. I was like, what the fuck? Like, what? So anyway, so that's how my journey started. So at that time, I was really dogmatic. I'm embarrassed of that, but that's how I reacted to information. So what I did very early on was I just stopped going to anything related to Christianity, to Catholicism. Like, I missed out on Thanksgivings, Christmases, de todo. Because I was like, fuck that. I'm not part of it. Fuck all that. I'm not part of it, right? So as I got older and certain family members started dying, that's when it fucking hit me. I'm like, what am I doing? Like, here I am boycotting my own family because I don't believe in this, right? Because this is fucking European as fuck. But at the same time, I'm robbing myself an opportunity to spend time with my loved ones. And I'm also robbing myself the opportunity to show up and share what I know. And that is time I cannot come back to. I cannot get that time back, right? So as I grew older, I started going to Christmas parties. I started going to Thanksgiving dinners. I started going because I was like, you know what? Yes, I don't agree with this shit. Yes, this is colonial as fuck. But my family don't know this shit. My family are just as ignorant as I was. So instead of me boycotting them, if I'm boycotting the holiday, I shouldn't, to me, this is me, right? I shouldn't boycott my family who in their ignorance, they're just trying to chill with each other and eat bomb food because in this capitalist system, they dictate what days we have off. They dictate when we get to hang out with each other, right? So I started understanding that. And I was like, fuck, dude. Like, it hit me hard because I was like, here I am spending years not participating, not visiting family because of whatever, right? Like, they're celebrating this. But at the same time, that's time I will never get back. And I miss opportunities to educate, right? So I started realizing, I was like, shit, not only was I boycotting the holiday, I was boycotting my family. And they don't even fucking know why. They're just like, what the fuck, right? They're like, ¿estás testigo de Jehová o qué? So luckily, again, I started learning this when I was 15. So remember that. I was a teenager. I was like all dogmatic. I was like a purist. I was like, fuck this and fuck all that. And so I missed out on a lot of family things. So as I got older, I realized I'm not going to punish my family for practicing a tradition that they were taught by this system of white supremacy and distance myself away from them if they're just like me. Like, I'm no better than them, right? So if anything, I should show up, take advantage of this time, cherish my family, and as I am there, then that's when, like, your family is like, oh, mija, like, ¿por qué no haces eso? ¿Por qué no comes pavo? ¿Por qué esto? And then that's an opportunity for me to show up and be authentic as who I am and share information. And I started doing that. When I started doing that, I was like, fuck, like, it felt so beautiful because my family was like, wow, I didn't know that. And, my relatives, my sisters, like, it was so powerful because as a teenager, I was very dogmatic and I was like, I'm not going to any of that shit. Fuck it, fuck it, fuck it. And then I would stay home alone and then miss out on family quality time because in my head, I was like, it's all fucking white supremacy. But at the same time, that was like punishing my family, right? And so what I started doing is like, you know what? It doesn't take away from who I am if I fucking show up. If I fucking help my suegra make tamales and help my grandma make bistec, like, showing up for family gatherings that are dictated by a colonial government does not take away from who I am and my view of the world, right? So I learned a lot. So I'm sharing that with y'all because I don't want you to suffer through that shit. I don't want you to go through that unless you want to, like, cada quien, right? But I'm just sharing because I was so, like, caught up in that, like, no, fuck that, fuck this, fuck that I didn't see how that was hurting me because I was cutting time from my family and hurting them. You have helped me so much on my decolonial journey, reconnecting to my Zapotec relatives. I'm so honored. Thank you so much. I'm happy I'm helping you. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And yes, like, and so I'm sharing all this because I'm in my late 30s, y'all. Like, I've been on this journey for a long time. And I have learned some harsh lessons that I don't want you to go through. if I can share some shit that you're like, oh fuck, let me like not do that because then I'm gonna fucking get fucking pain going through that, you know? So honestly, I learned that I can show up and be myself. And that doesn't take away anything from what I believe and what I view at a Christmas party, at a fucking, I don't know, New Year's. Like before, I was like, no, I can't be part of any of that. Fuck this, fuck this. And yes, like if people do that, that's cool. But I'm sharing with you the aftermath. I'm sharing with you how it felt after, right? Because somehow I felt threatened. I felt like if I showed up, that means I'm not down for my shit. And if I show up, that means I'm fake. And that also has to do with the type of people that I was hanging out with and the type of toxic circles that I was in. Because my decolonization journey, it started off pretty toxic. So mind you, right? So I'm a teenager, I'm learning my history, but at the same time, I'm dealing with all these people who are like trying to police me and like we're trying to like outdo each other. This is fucking crazy. Like, I'm telling you, this is in the late 90s. This is on Udemy. And I was around other people who were like that. They're like, you're not down. If you were really down for your people, you're not going to show up to that. You're not going to celebrate Christmas. You're not going to do this. And that shit gets to you. And I was like, I'm down. What the fuck? I'm not going. I'm not like, it was like, wow. Like, what the fuck? What was happening in that circle that we would weaponize the awareness that we had against each other? And I share that because I was in a relationship like that, right? My boyfriend at that time, it was like that. It was like, you're not down. You're not down for your people. You're doing this. You're doing that. You're not down. And I was like, what the fuck? And then I started seeing how other people were like doing the same thing. Like we had, and I knew two relatives, right? I knew two relatives that they were like, you shouldn't be drinking. You shouldn't be smoking. Yeah. And then one night, one of them got drunk, and then the other one was like, oh, you're fake. You're drinking the white man's, liquor, this and that. And they end up in a fist fight. And they both end up quitting. They both end up like giving up on their journey of decolonization. Why? Because they were trying to live up to a standard that was not their own. Because they were trying to live up to, at that time we had an elder that was like that. So they were trying to fake who they were to accommodate what people expected from them. So they ended up imploding, right? One was talking shit to the other one saying, why are you drinking? Why are you drinking? This guy is drunk, beats him up, and they're both stop being friends and they both give up and they're gone. Because that's the type of shit that was happening. And you know what? Even though this was more than 20 years ago, it happens all the time. Right? And I share this because I see it happening. It happens all the time, right? How people are weaponizing what they know against their own community as if to make themselves feel better than that person, right? And you'll see this all the time. You're not decolonized because you're going to church or you're going to Christmas or you have the Virgin Mary or like this constant policing, right? Like shit, like it took me years, and I was guilty of that shit. But honestly, I thought that was just a teenage thing. I thought I was doing that because I was a teenager and that's just part of being a teenager. But no, like I see grown ass people do that shit. So I was like, oh shit. So it's not just because I'm a teenager. Like this is like a pattern that happens. And yes, it is. It's a pattern that happens often where all of a sudden you start learning your history, you start decolonizing, and you want everyone to be at your level. You want everyone to denounce Latinidad, mestizaje. Everyone must abide by your new view of the world because if not, they're all being brainwashed and colonized and you don't want to have anything with it. That's just real shit. And I thought, like I said, that had to do with me being a teenager and thinking that I was a little smart ass and knew it all. But you know what? It's not. It's a very common reaction to this knowledge, right? And that has to do with us not knowing who we are. And so when we start learning who we are, it makes you feel good about yourself, right? it makes you feel like, oh shit, like I know what's going on behind the scenes. Like, let me share with you what's going on behind the scenes. Like, we ain't Latino, we're not white, like what the fuck? But then it becomes a very toxic trait because you start policing other people and you start expecting people to abide by your view and your approach to decolonization. And that's when we lose so many warriors. That's when we lose so many people that give up. They're like, fuck this shit. Like, it's hard enough that we're deconstructing, that we're detoxing from all this stuff. And then my best friend now is talking shit because whatever, went out or whatever it is, right? And so it's weaponized and so many people give up because of it. And it's fucking sad. So I'm sharing it because even though, I've been doing this for almost 26 years, the pattern continues. We're policing, right? So anyway, I'm sharing that because as I'm talking about family, I went through that. I did that when I was younger, right? And I would not go to an event that had anything to do with Catholicism and Christianity. And I was just like hardcore, like fuck all that, right? But as I got older, some of my relatives started passing, right? They started, transitioning over to the ancestors' time. And I was like, fuck, like I could have shown up and I could have been who I am and I could have shared who I am. And I probably would have learned more about my family. I probably could have asked some questions about our heritage, about our lineage. But because I was so caught up with being right and so caught up with like, oh no, I got to prove that I'm fucking down, that I missed that. So I'm sharing this because I see it happening. And I don't want whoever is thinking about that for you to go through that shit. Because that shit's painful as fuck. Right? Now, as far as family, outside of decolonization, there's some family members that are toxic as fuck. And you shouldn't talk to. Right? There's some family members that are either abusive, verbally, sexually, emotionally. Like, you don't need to be in their life. Right? You do not need to be in their life. So besides decolonization, we're not even talking about just your own health and your own safety. There's family members that you don't need to talk to. And I learned that at a very young age. I learned that just because we're family doesn't mean I'm obligated to put up with abuse, with toxicity, with gaslighting. Like, you have the choice, So that's why I tell people, like, when we're talking about decolonization and family relationships, and we're talking about just in general family relationships, it's a big topic, right? So I tell people, my perspective is, I don't care if you're related to me or not. If you are a danger to my health, to my emotional well-being, to my physical health, I have nothing to do with you. And I don't feel bad about that. Like, that's separate. That's a separate issue from decolonizing and not talking to people because they're not decolonizing like you are. Very different. I'm a strong advocate of mental health. I'm a strong advocate for therapy. I'm a strong advocate for changing and ending intergenerational traumas, right? So I tell people, recognize that, right? I suggest and I recommend people get therapy, advocate for yourself, right? Because growing up, going to a therapist was not cool. It was not accepted, at least not in my family. I'm considered first generation, right? So that's seen as stigma, it's seen as taboo. So I tell people, recognize what is the issue here. Is it the decolonization and their view of the world? Or is it their toxic traits and behavior towards you? Which you should feel empowered to create boundaries for your own safety. Right? And that's like hands down to anybody. Like, you should be able to advocate for yourself and make sure that you are safe and healthy. And that's my philosophy of life, is that, right? If you are healthy, if you mean well for my well-being, then you are invited in my life. But if you are bringing in negativity, abuse, gaslighting, like all these things that are making my heart heavy, then I don't need that energy, right? So at a young age, I learned that I have the power to filter my life in a way that's going to make me a better person, and that doesn't take away from who I am as a person, right? So that's two different things, right? Cutting people off because they're toxic and they're abusive towards you and it's a threat to your well-being. I say go for it, right? You should all feel empowered. You should all feel that you can do that. Because if you don't advocate for yourself, if you don't, take care of yourself, no one else is going to do it. So advocate for yourself. But when we're talking about decolonization, it's a different thing, right? Because we're talking about a view of the world. We're talking about a view of spirituality. We're talking about a view of identity, of race, of features, of colorism, of all of these things. There's two different issues. That's really interesting dealing with this myself in terms of decolonization. It's real. It's real. I feel like not challenging this stuff would be condemning my family. You know what? And that's another thing. Like, everyone is different. We all have different family dynamics. And not all family members are the same, right? So maybe there's folks that you could talk to this about. Maybe there's folks who are interested. Maybe there's folks who are not interested, right? For example, I've been doing this for 26 years. So my family at first are like, like se le va a pasar. It's just a trend. It's just like a phase. And then I legally changed my name when I turned 19 and they're like, what the fuck? Like, what's going on? And, I moved out when I was really young because I had to, for my own safety. And so all these things are like, oh shit, right? And I learned that I have the power. There's a lot of things that are going to happen in life, right? There's a lot of things that we don't have control over, that we have power over. But the things that you can have control over and create boundaries for that are going to honor your well-being, you have to exercise that power and that control of your life. Because at the end of the day, no one is going to advocate for you like you are. And that's real shit, right? So anyway, that's like, for example, I have a tia. Like, I still have her. I love her. She, since I was really young, I was never religious. Like, that was just not me. Even before learning my history, even before decolonization, I was just like, that's just not for me. Like, I don't feel it. It doesn't feel like it's in my heart, right? So I had this tia that was like, you must like love Jesus and accept Jesus. And I was like, yo, I'm 12 years old. Like, let me figure life out, right? So anyway, so years go on. And she's like, And so she tried to take me to like a youth retreat. And I was just not having it because I was like, I don't believe in this. Like, and so anyway, so she finally accepted. She finally realized, okay, like, homegirl, like, she ain't gonna convert. This is like her life. And I told my tia, like, just because I don't believe in the way that you view the world and your script of spirituality doesn't make me a bad person, right? So if your religion and the way you're interpreting it, you're demonizing me for not viewing the world through your eyes, that's kind of like cultish. It's kind of like, I don't know, like something wrong, like this whole absolutism. So luckily that tia and I love her, right? She understood where I was coming from, and that's real shit, right? It's real shit because it's like you can either go with it just to like not, make anybody uncomfortable, but why make yourself feel uncomfortable and sacrifice your own peace of mind for someone else? Like, you can show up and be yourself and believe what you believe and live this life the way you want to without being a fucking asshole about it and without being someone's like, punching bag about it. And that's something I didn't think was possible. I thought that if I showed up to a fucking Christmas gathering, that I was submitting to Christianity. That it was like, fuck, I'm giving in. It's like, it's not that black and white. As I got older and got more wisdom, I was like, yo, like, that doesn't mean shit. It doesn't mean shit. I'm showing up to eat bomb ass food with my family because these are the only fucking holidays that this colonial government is dictating to us when we can share quality time. So let's take advantage of this motherfucking time, spend time with each other, cook, find out about each other, celebrate each other. And honestly, most of the time, if your family's like mine, we don't really even acknowledge like what's happening, like what Thanksgiving, what the fuck is that? So anyway, I'm sharing all this because I'm hoping that that saves somebody from that pain, that saves somebody from those uncomfortable moments. I've learned as I've grown older to be confident in who I am in all aspects of my life, and to not view those spaces or relationships as a battle, right? I'm going to show up being my non-Christian self, non-Catholic self to a Christmas party, and I'm going to enjoy myself and have a blast and cherish my family, because guess what? When can we do this again? And it's like, let's just take advantage of the time. Let's not let these holidays, their doctrines, rob us from that quality time, right? So anyway, that's my suggestions. That's my advice to folks, because it's really fucked up, right? It's really crucial, and it really fucks up a lot of people emotionally and mentally, because we feel like we're in this divide. Like it's either this or that. Like we feel like we're in between, and what the fuck. And what I tell people now that I've grown and that I have this wisdom is, show up, be yourself. It's okay. You're not going to convert to Christianity just because you show up. Like, you're not gonna be, you know what I mean? Like, we're not gullible like that. We're not naive like that. We understand the world. We're stepping into the world in a way that we're trying our best to reconnect with who we are, a part of ourselves. But at the same time, know that not everyone is going to want that journey, and not everyone is going to welcome and embrace it with open arms, because the journey really questions and challenges a lot of things that are very key to people's points of views and to their purpose in their life, right? So I've learned that, right? I've learned that, and it's real, right? What about not wanting to baptize my baby? Yeah, my child, we're not gonna baptize them either, and that's something that I had already told my partner since I met him, right? I was like, if we ever are to have children, we're not gonna baptize them, and my partner was down with it. And to this day, I think my mom mentioned it once, like, oh, lo vas a bautizar? And I'm like, no, esa no es mi creencia. And she's like, oh, okay. All right. Like, it's first and foremost, that's your child. So you as a parent have that vision of the world that you're sharing with your child, right? So as a parent, you have to understand and recognize your autonomy as a parent, right? Now, if you and your partner don't agree, then that's where things get complicated, right? That's where it gets really tough. In my situation, my partner and I are on board with not baptizing our child, right? Because we're not Christian or Catholic, and it's not part of our faith. So, as far as feeling pressured from the family and all that, sometimes maybe some family members are not going to like it, but whose child is it? Right? Your child, when they grow up and they choose to practice whatever religion they're going to practice, they'll be old enough to make that decision for themselves, right? If we are raising children to be free and to be autonomous beings, then that child will make that decision one day, right? If you're not feeling that in your heart, and if that's not the way that you participate in the world through that religion, then you don't have to, right? If the family's pressuring you and all this, then that's a whole different issue. That's a family member that's not respecting your autonomy as a parent, right? That's another issue. It could be religious, but it's also, family members that are like that want to talk shit if you're not baptizing your kid. Those family members tend to be toxic in other ways, not just religious. So keep that in mind, right? That just because they are pressuring you or have this vision, that's maybe because they're toxic in other areas. So don't remember, you are the parent. That is your child. You are instilling in your child what makes sense to you in your worldview. If that doesn't make sense to you in your worldview, then do not do it. It's your child, right? This is your child. So those are my thoughts. I'm not baptizing my kid. I did not get married through the Catholic Church or through a Christian church. I did not have a Christian or Catholic ceremony. So that's another way too. Like for my wedding, it was funny because my tia, another tia, not the same one, right? My tia, when she showed up to my wedding, she's like, I knew, mija. I knew you weren't going to come up with no Christian Catholic things. Like, I knew you were going to do this the way that you view the world. And it felt so beautiful. I was like, yes, tia. Like, I felt so beautiful. Because people that know me, they know I wasn't about to come in no fucking church. Like, because that's not who I am. So, establishing those boundaries and that respect is a different thing. That has not even decolonization, nothing. It's just the fact that you are not going to participate in something that you don't believe in. And a lot of us have been trained and socialized to believe so that we can cater to other people's beliefs, who cater to other people's beliefs, who cater to other people's beliefs to make them happy. So that tradition of doing it just to quedar bien, just to, or my tia could be happy, or my grandma could be happy. Like, we're moving, I think a lot of the new generation is moving away from that. Because doing things that do not align with you because it's going to make somebody else happy, especially when it comes to your kid, that's really toxic. And it's really, really belittling your autonomy as a person and as a human being. So, thank you. Thank you so much. These were, I got these through Sisa Quispe. They're from the Amazon. She is in contact with a relative from the Amazon. So Sisa Quispe, shout out to you, relative. She's Quechua Aymara. She did a beautiful TED Talk, by the way. Check out her TED Talk on decolonizing identity. Beautiful, beautiful. I'm Kenneth. Hey, Kenneth. What's up? Thank you so much. I'm glad, Kenneth. Thank you. Oh, by the way, I'm writing a new book, Kenneth. I'm writing a new book. It should be done by April. It's called Don't Call Me Latina. That's the name of my next poetry book. It's poetry, photography, and research. So I'm combining all three things into one. So stay tuned for that, Kenneth. It's called Don't Call Me Latina. And I figured, I've been doing this for 25 years. Let me just put it down in a book. Let me put it down in a book why I'm not Latina, right? So that's what the book is about. It's called Don't Call Me Latina, and it's about that. It's about why I reject Latina and all the activism I've done, the research that I've done about that. My wife is really struggling because the reality of what the RC did started sinking in. Hard to watch. What's RC? I don't know what RC is. My wife is really struggling because the reality of what the RC did started kicking in. Hard to watch. What is RC? Kuiper Koala. If you can please let us know what RC means. So that's what I would say, right? Like, we have to understand, like, the dynamics of family. If they're very toxic about how you're choosing to decolonize, Roman Catholic. Oh, okay. Got it. It's all good. RC, the Catholic Church, Roman Catholic Church. Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, when we start learning history, when you start learning a decolonial view of the world, like, it's a very painful experience because it challenges us to think beyond what has been presented and think beyond how we've been raised and socialized, right? So it's a really challenging journey. So I tell people you need to build community, right? Try to surround with people that are like-minded. Try to surround yourself with people who are understanding of this journey. And honestly, don't try to push this on nobody. Take my word for it, okay? Don't try to push this on nobody because it's a really tough journey for people, and people need to come to that realization themselves. Because the more that you push it, the more that you like try to force people into thinking the way you think, the more you're pushing them away from even being curious about what you're talking about. Trust me on that one, okay? Like I have two younger sisters. I'm gonna leave for now. I have two younger sisters, and um I learned that I couldn't push this on them. Like I need to just let them be, right? Let them be, let them live life, let them figure it out. And if they ever have questions about decolonization, I'm right here, right? And doing that was really beautiful because as they grew older, they would reach out to me and ask me questions about things, right? Oh, sister, what about this? And what about that? And so allowing them that curiosity to reach out to me, it made it easier for me to share instead of me like, don't do this and don't call yourself Latina, don't call yourself Hispana, blah, blah, blah. Like, that wasn't my style by the time they're already growing. Like, I had already passed that phase, like, thank goodness, because they would have hated me. But I just, I'm no better than nobody, right? Like, and I think a lot of the times when you're understanding this history, it's really natural to think, oh wow, like I know this shit, other people don't know this. Wow, soy la chingona. And that happens a lot. But when we humble our asses down and we're like, sister girl, you ain't shit, homie. Just because you know this doesn't mean you're better, homie. Because we know this history, it makes us more responsible and more accountable to share. That's how I take it, right? So moving away from, oh, I know all this and you don't know shit and wooty woo, instead of weaponizing what you're learning, take it as a gift and take it as a responsibility. Like, oh shit, like how many more of our people don't know this, right? That's why I do what I do. That's why I create YouTube videos. That's why I teach workshops online. That's why I do all this, because I am fueled with the desire to share this information with as many people, because this history, this knowledge has saved my life, right? It's impacted me in ways that I am forever grateful to my ancestors, and it's empowered me to be more, become more, show up in who I am, and stop trying to minimize myself for anybody. So the power of knowing your history, it transcends so many layers that I want people to have that option. Like, we should know this information. I shouldn't be having to make these fucking crazy YouTube videos and then over here. Like, but it's not part of the curricula. It's not part of the education system that we receive, not even in Mexico. Okay, this knowledge, decolonial view of the world is not institutionalized to a way that it's accessible to all of us and that we go through this information and this process in a normal way. We have to go out of our way because it's not part of that exposure, and that it's not part of that fabric that exposes us and socializes us since we are young, right? So I tell myself, I ain't shit. I happen to know this, and I happen to be very, fucking passionate about it, which is all I do is fucking research, right? Research, create, research, create. Like, that's the way I'm trying to give back to my people, right? Because I want them to know that. I want them to know what beautiful history we come from, how resilient we are, right? And that's what fuels that's my intention behind what I do. Right? So my courses, my free content, all my videos, everything I've been doing for the last 25 years is to try to help share this information because it's crucial. It's crucial to how we view ourselves in this world. Right? So that's part of the stuff I want to talk about. I'm going to let you all go. I have to head to dinner with my family, but I'm here as your older sister, take it as that. I'm a Ruca, okay? I've been doing this for 26 years. Doesn't mean I know it all, but I've learned a lot of shit that may help you on your journey. That's what being a Ruca means to me, right? There's shit that I can hopefully share with you. That way you don't have to go through the same shit, right? Let my wisdom that came through pain show up in your life in a way that you don't have to experience that pain, right? And I think that's what wisdom is doing for me. So all the stuff that I've gone through, I'm sharing it and I'm very open about it because I am so proud of where I am now. Like, I am so proud of the fact that I'm still here and that I'm thriving and that I have a beautiful little family in the making and that I have amazing people in my life because I fought for it, because I believed in myself, because I advocated for myself. So I want you to know that. I want you to advocate for yourself. I want you to understand that your journey is going to be very challenging. So be gentle with yourself, be compassionate towards yourself, but also be very, very compassionate and gentle with others, right? We're not all going to decolonize the same way. We're not all going to agree on the same thing. This shit is so complicated. There's so many like perspectives and approaches that there is no one way, right? So what I'm sharing is my particular way of how I've experienced life as a decolonial scholar, right? As someone that's on this path. And I would also say to you, do not get attached to knowledge. Knowledge changes. Interpretations, history, research changes. Don't get attached to knowledge. Understand that this journey is fluid. It's going to change. It's going to transform. So be open to all possibilities. Be open to all interpretations and perspectives because it's going to come. And there's going to be different views, different perspectives. Just give yourself that grace to understand no one person knows it all. But if we cannot share what we know, and add that to the bow, we are unstoppable. All right, everybody. I am going to let you go. I thank you for joining me. I will now go have dinner with my family. Don't forget, I am teaching, next month, my class starts, Decolonial History of the Americas. I'm starting my class. It's a 4 Wednesday class, 6 to 7:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. It's an introductory course to decolonial history of this hemisphere, what is known as Americas, what I like to call Abya Yala, in unity with our relatives. So my class, Decolonial History of the Americas, starts next month, and I'm also teaching Women of Mesoamerica and Decolonial History of Mexico in March. Don't forget to go to my link tree here on on TikTok. Go to my website, Citlalli-anahuac.com. You'll learn more about my courses, my projects, my book, my workshops that I'm working on, and other activities that I have going on. So until then, everybody have a beautiful night. Take care of yourself. And remember, be gentle, be compassionate with yourself. We don't all know this shit. We're all learning. We're all trying to figure this shit out. All right, everybody. Have a beautiful night. Tlaxcamati.